Hey everybody, this is Mark,
And this is Justin.
and this is Awkward Fist Bump Productions. Boom!
Yeah.
Yeah! Okay, so we are going along with the same route that we've gone the last few weeks. We have noticed that y'all really like 60 Days In participants. So we're going to go along that route. But first, before we get started, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you share. Thank you guys for tuning in. Without y'all, obviously, the show would be nothing. So I wanted to thank you ahead of time. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/AFBP. Also, another cool thing, well, actually, a couple of cool announcements. Number one, we are actually getting merchandise made like shirts and cups. So let us know if you're interested. Comment below. Also, if you like the interview, comment below. And then finally, we got a super cool announcement, and you'll have to wait until next week for it. Sorry. But I actually got another cool announcement at the end of this episode. So you're going to have to watch the entire episode to get to the end. Preferably don't fast forward it. I know I do that sometimes. But anyway, I'd prefer you not do it. But let's get right on into the interview. Who are you, Tony?
I'm Tony from 60 Days In.
Yeah, from season 6. So the latest season. So we actually talked about you a couple of weeks ago. We interviewed Zach from season 1. And one of the things that we actually said was, now with Tony, we were introducing Zach, and we were like, the guy that's kind of considered the GOAT of the show. There's always several people that come into the conversation when you're talking about the GOAT of 60 Days In. You never forget our boy Zach. If you love Zach, go back a couple of episodes. We interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. Then we got Nate that comes into the conversation. We have Abner from my season that comes into the conversation. And then lastly, the new GOAT, if you will, that has come into the conversation as the GOAT of all of 60 Days In would be my boy Tony. Tony, why don't you tell us about your experience, man? Let's first of all, where were you for your season?
My season, I was in Gaston, Alabama. I actually did it twice. I actually went in and then came out and then went back in. I enjoyed it. I read a lot of comments. I was like, hey, this guy loved to be in jail. I just felt like I had a lot to bring to the table and took advantage of it.
You definitely did it different than everybody else.
Yeah, how does it feel to be the first participant in 60 Days in history to go in, come out, and then go back in?
For me, it was pretty exciting. Being that I'm currently in law enforcement, I already had my story lined up for certain people. Was pretty much, I got out, I bonded out, and came back to Atlanta. Didn't make it. I didn't go back to Alabama to court, so I got an FTA, and Georgia State Patrol picked me up, shipped me back to Alabama.
So that was your story for going back.
Yeah,
I wondered about that.
How long were you out for?
I was out not long at all. Maybe a week or two.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. So that was actually a very interesting part of your story because your season, it seemed like it was in danger of failing. So they called out, I guess they called it the Special Forces Unit, Special Elite Squad, and to try to save the season. So we're going to get in all that in a minute, but I'm going to ask you a crazy question. So I've explained multiple times. I was a corrections officer. I'd gotten out of the military in Georgia. And when the whole 60 Days In idea, concept, season 1, episode 1 came to play, I was a fan. I was just like, okay, why are people stupid enough to agree to go to jail on their own voluntarily? So I was definitely hooked. So I joined the Facebook page, and because everybody has a Facebook page, and because a lot of people, and they probably do the same thing to you. They ask us questions of, you'll get a lot of fans that'll DM you or whatever. Hey, how do I get on 60 Days In?
Right.
And every time my answer is, I don't know. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. I can tell you what company does 60 Days In, the casting company, but I can't tell you how to get on because each experience is so unique. So my experience was I had posted something on, or I'd commented on one of their posts. They liked it. So I got this crazy random direct message DM in my inbox. and said, "Hey, I'm in a casting company here in New York, and I would like to talk to you about being on a TV show." I think I've told y'all before, but at first I thought it was a scam because I was like, "Okay, how often do people hit you up on Facebook and say I'm from
Right.
TV?" So I was like, "Whatever." So I answered with a grain of salt, and anyway, it turned out to be 60 days in. So that's my story on how I got on the show. That landed to be the first interview, which led to the second interview, which led to on down the road to being accepted. What is your story? Because you worked at Rice Street, which is where season 3 and 4 of 60 Days In had been filmed.
Mhm.
So what's your story? What happened there? How did you get involved?
It was they actually shot it at my facility, like you said. I wasn't involved at all. We actually didn't know what was going on until, really didn't know what was going on. And pretty much I reached out to my chain of command, and they made some phone calls, and they my chain of command, they spoke highly of me and was like, "Hey, this guy, if he tell you he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it." He's, you know, and we went from there. And next thing you know, I'm getting phone calls and we setting up meetings and stuff.
So you actually showed interest in being in the next season, huh? And then
Mm-hmm.
you just had Colonel Mark Adger, I guess, made some phone calls for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Wow.
So how did it feel going from being an officer to being an inmate? How did that feel?
It so how do I say this? So I would classify myself as at my facility we have like some of the best training, right? So from the transition from inmate to CO or CO to inmate, it wasn't hard for me because I pretty much applied my life to the inmates. So I pretty much lived my inmate's life. So when I was in there, I'm like, hey, I did this, I did this, I did this, and I'm pretty much just swapping out my lifestyle for theirs.
Mm-hmm.
When I got back to work, everybody, the people who actually, my coworkers who actually know me, that was like, they wasn't shocked. It was like, dude, I already knew you was gonna go in and because they know me.
Yeah.
But people who don't know me, they just see me on the professional side. They don't see me, always laughing, cutting up, having a blast. They always see, just straight to the point, rah, straight to the point.
Oh yeah.
They was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. But I think I probably encountered since I've been out, probably the fans, probably 300 to 400 people probably recognize me. And I probably had one bad experience. And I say bad, I mean like, just, I can't believe you went in there and sided everybody up or did this. Also so I think my numbers are pretty good right now. So, so I'm cool with that.
And I can actually vouch for them. So I had a lot of people recognize me too. In fact, I
Yeah.
was just saying before we hit the record button, someone recognized me today. I never had a bad experience.
Yeah.
There was one that I thought was going to go that way. The guy
Mm-hmm.
came up to me. He's like, "You were on 60 Days In." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I just got out of prison." And the way he said it, I was like, "Oh boy, here we go." But
Yeah.
I've never had a bad experience.
Yeah.
The coolest experience, and I've relayed this story before, is for those of you that don't know, Shaquille O'Neal lives here in the Atlanta area, and I happened to be at a gas station, and Shaquille O'Neal walked out and he looked at me and he said, "You're Mark from 60 Days In," and that was like super super cool. So, but I've never had a bad experience from fans. It seems like even the people that have come that they were incarcerated, and it seems like there's
Mm-hmm.
a large incarcerated population that watch the show are like, "Dude, we appreciate you doing the show
Right.
because you're doing it for us."
Right.
What was your experience? Especially, I guess you probably had people that have been incarcerated that recognized you.
Um, my former inmates and my current inmates, that was pretty. Honestly, they wasn't too shocked either. It was like, hey, Murray, you the guy to do it. If it can, I got a lot of positive feedback from my inmates. It's just a mutual respect level. They respect me, I respect them, and I mean, it's been sweet, man. To be honest, it's been sweet. It's been sweet.
I
Yeah.
know that when the Atlanta one played, I was still locked up, and like everybody watched it. I mean, I've really tried. I didn't try to watch it that much because I'm like, man, I'm living this 24/7. Like, I don't need to sit on TV and watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially when the Fulton County was on, everybody in Georgia watched it. But
Right.
I think it was more because they wanted to see who's in the county, who do they know, who's
Right.
coming down the road. Like,
Right.
so I know that season was big.
Where were you incarcerated at?
I did a little over 2 years at Waycross.
Okay.
I've been at Dooley.
Dooley. Okay, I'm familiar with that one.
I did a very short time at Coffee County.
Oh yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
You ever go to Telfair?
No, I never went to Telfair, but Smith was. Not Smith, but Waycross is just like Smith and Telfair.
Yeah. Yeah.
A level 5 camp. I mean, riots popping off.
Right.
And I didn't go over 2 weeks without seeing something happen or something big happening on the compound. Like, it was just a gladiator school. It was nonstop something happening.
Right. So let me ask you this. So I was like, us three, we know the difference between jail and prison. You know, it's different.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you think? Do you think the 60 days in participants could go to a prison and do that? How do you think that would play out?
That's funny because we just talked about that. I just mentioned something like that the other day, and I really don't think that it would be safe for them to do that but I mean, I don't think it would play out like it would through a county because I mean, like, I think you were the first person in 60 days in to be able to get a shank that I know of. I'm not sure. I might be.
I'm not sure.
I think you are actually.
I think so. So.
So out of 6 seasons and all the participants, you were the first one to ever get one. So that goes to show you that in most counties they don't have that, and if they do, it's very few.
Mm-hmm.
You go to prison, there's not a prison. Any prison, there's not a prison that doesn't have a whole bunch of different kind of weapons. I mean, because these folks have been in there for years. In the county, you're only in there for a few months for most of the time. Here, we're there for years. We move around the compound. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of different jobs and opportunities and ways to move around the camp and find things and get things. So, personally, I would never want them to ever put it at a show in a prison just because I've lived there and I know what it's like. I mean, I like 60 Days In because I think it does help the counties and it helps the inmates a little bit. But I just don't think it would be safe to put it in a prison because that's where we live. That's that's people's lifestyle because some people ain't never coming home. Right. So their mentality is way different than in the county. Yeah. And there's just so much more of a danger aspect to it when it comes to prison and county. Counties can be very bad,
real quick, wouldn't you have a story from county and several inmates, and maybe not a whole bunch, but at least several inmates that came from that county that can vouch for you at that point? Whereas, and what I'm saying is, so obviously we know, so for the viewers that don't know, when you commit a crime, you go to jail. While you're doing the whole legal process, you're in the county jail. And then when you're convicted, you go to prison. So that's the difference between jail and prison. Jail is jail is pre-judicial stuff. Prison is post-judicial stuff. So what I'm getting at is I don't know that 60 Days In would work in the prison because then you're going to have a backstory on what county you came from. Then there's a chance there are people in the same facility that you're in that would know if you were in the county. Is that true, Justin?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely true. And especially how we were talking about the differences in between county and prison. In prison, now they're gonna push up on you. Hey, where's your paperwork at? Or what are you in here for? What'd you do? How long have you done? Like you just asked, what prison have you been at? What county did you go to? And in prison, there's somebody from every single county of that state. So if somebody don't feel right about you, they're gonna ask about you off the rip. And if they can't find out from asking, they're gonna look it up because we got phones. And if they can't,
Mhm.
if they ain't got a phone or can't get to a phone, they're gonna ask on the blue phone, "Hey, look this person up." I mean, they're gonna find out, and the word's gonna get around very quickly. And so to have a backstory to go into prison, I don't think it's gonna work because there's just too much politics. There's too many people
Mhm.
asking questions, and everywhere you go, you're gonna cross somebody that you were in county with, that you were in intake with, or
Right.
somewhere, and
And
they're gonna find out.
real quick, Tony, just being another participant, man, look at how many of our own participants screwed up their own story. And
Right.
I'm thinking
Right.
to go to prison, it's not just got to be a story that we had. So my story was I had committed fraud. I was in possession of stolen checkbooks. But to get to the prison point, it has to be so much more of an elaborate story than just, hey, I got pulled over. Because my story was I got pulled over on I-10 in Pinal County, Arizona. They searched the car, they found stolen checkbooks, and here I am. Easy story. But I mean, it seems like some of the previous participants haven't even been able to get that right. So I think, if you can't get that right, it's going to be even that much harder when you're in prison.
Well, I think
Right.
But
a lot of people, once they start getting questioned, they freak out because you are in jail, so you're scared, you're nervous, and you may not even, I'm tough, but no, because you may be able to beat one dude, but you ain't gonna be able to beat 5 or 10 of them.
Right.
So if you ain't got your story in the line, there's gonna be that nervousness inside you, and you're gonna stutter, you're gonna mess up on your story, and that's how they, like, I've noticed, like, some people are like, oh, I gotta tap out because I can't get my story straight.
Right.
you
Right.
probably have a
Right.
higher tap out rate than the first part of season 6, and that was a lot of them. So Tony, who did you went in a little late? How long after everyone else did you go in at the beginning of season 6?
Um, it wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't too much longer.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't too much more longer. Yeah, no, it wasn't. I would say maybe, if not a couple of days, of maybe a week.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
And you were in the pod with Alex. You were in the pod with Dennis.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm trying to think. Everyone else all the other guys at that point had tapped out that were going to
Right.
tap out.
Right.
Well, Alex would wind up tapping out a little bit. So uh, I guess when the sheriff brought you in, I know he showed you pictures of the guys, but how much interaction did you really have with Alex or Dennis?
Uh, Dennis, a whole lot.
Okay.
Dennis, a whole lot. Every day, pretty much, almost. Up until after that initial meeting, after that, we had to break the ice and
Yeah.
meet up accidental and all that type stuff. But after that, I mean, I mean, it, we'll be passing by each other. We would just be like, "What's up?" Or just
Yeah.
playing cards or something.
And I know in my facility, I actually knew David before we went in, and we didn't really have a lot of interaction in the pod though. But in our pod in Arizona, because everything was so race based, you wouldn't really hang out with, people of different races. So we
Mhm.
talked a few times, but I was just always curious about that. So tell me about your experience. How did it go? You walked in, and what happened?
Um, so my experience, so when I first came in, I was like, I'm gonna be the best participant 6 days in. People don't know how to take that. I'm extremely confident in everything I do. Um, I rely solely on my training at my facility, from my facility. So with me coming from a larger facility, going to a smaller country town, not to say it can't be
Yeah.
dangerous, because them country towns are extremely dangerous. However, I carry myself a certain way and a certain demeanor about myself. I mean, it's I think I probably had one bad day that I would consider a bad day. And I tell you, the AC went out at the house, went out,
Hmm.
and it was nothing I could do. And my fiance, she was just telling me the AC went out, so now I'm stressed out because my kids in here are hot. So we worked it out in a couple of days. I mean, other than that, I mean, man, I'm head first in everything. I'm trying to stir the pot. I'm trying to I mean, I'm trying to get in the mix and see what I can do.
Oh yeah. Oh, is there anything that happened that they never showed, or that, like, you wish that they would have talked about or showed?
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Honestly, I don't know if I could talk about it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a lot of stuff, man. I mean, yeah, it's some.
It's all it's all good to stop the awkwardness for a minute. Maybe even though we are awkward fist bump productions. Yeah, I mean we did. For example, it showed for us in our pod all the violence, all the jumping, all the race tensions. But one thing it didn't see is I went in there trying to hopefully change some lives. So I helped guys write resumes because I didn't
Mhm,
want to see them come back because it's hard to go into a facility and not feel compassion for them, not
mhm,
become friends with them. And, being a former CO, when you go through that type of training, and you can probably back me up, Tony, I know there's a lot
mhm.
of training that's like, hey, don't trust them. They're trying to get over on you, and
Right.
this, that, and the third. And then
Manipulation.
manipulation, exactly. And the one thing that I did see is that's prevalent, and that's always going to be there. But in a lot of cases, that's not necessarily always the truth. There are inmates that aren't trying to get over on the officers. They're just trying
Mhm,
to get something. I
mhm,
remember, for example, I wanted my toenail had grown pretty large and it was cutting into my foot, and I said, "Hey, can I get a toenail clipper, please? Because I'm bleeding through my at this point I'm bleeding through my sock." And I believe it took about 8 hours to finally get someone to clip my nails. And I was like, "Oh goodness gracious!" So,
yeah.
but one of the things I remember going in there, and you have this mindset, especially doing the training. They're all trying to get over on you. They're all bad people,
Mhm,
if you will, and they're not really all that bad. Yeah, and I've said this since day one. There are people that need to be in prison for the rest of their lives, but
right.
there are many more people that just need good coping skills. They need
Mhm.
addiction recovery skills like that. Was that the same experience you had?
Absolutely. Good people go to jail every day.
Hmm.
Just as simple as, I mean, you literally can go to jail. You forget your wallet. You don't have a driver license on you, and you're driving, and you can actually go to jail for that. So
Yeah.
normal people, good people go to jail every day. So it's not a matter of, I would like to say law enforcement don't judge like that. I think I would like to say make that statement. However, people, when I went in there, I'm a pretty good judge of an individual. I within like the first 5 minutes, I can pretty much read through the BS.
Hmm.
If you're trying to play
Hmm.
games, if you're trying to steal, take advantage, lie, try to put off like you're this big bad guy, I can pretty much pick those people out. And
Hmm.
and then I just deal with people accordingly. Like
Hmm.
Champagne, he thought he was hot stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, hey, bro, we can take it wherever you want to take it. I mean, um, I was 100% open to getting pepper sprayed or tased. I mean,
Hmm.
that. And that's funny when I said that. I read some comments. People was like, "Oh my gosh, you'll get tased, you'll get pepper sprayed," and I'm saying to myself, "I get tased and pepper sprayed for my qualifications at work."
Been
So
there,
yeah,
done that. Yeah.
it really isn't a biggie. And the tactical hand-to-hand training combat we do. So I mean, I'm used to the hand-to-hand combat. So I'm like, if I get in a altercation or get pepper sprayed or tased, I mean, big deal. I'm cool with it, no biggie. Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you
Hmm.
think that actually being an officer, then going to being an inmate and coming back to be an officer, did that help you in your job? Did it change anything? Did it change your mind or anything?
Absolutely. That me doing 60 days in, it just catapulted my career in law enforcement. Meaning, I I feel like I can do my job 10 times better.
Hmm.
Meaning, when like prior to the show, I thought I knew a lot about law enforcement. It's like I have the inside scoop. Meaning, like instead of like one instance when I was on the phone and the CO, he killed the phone.
Yeah.
Now when I'm at my facility, I'm a little more compassionate. I'm like, all right, man, we're not gonna do this every day, but I'm gonna give you an extra 5 minutes. If you
Hmm.
burn me that one time, and don't want to go lock down, I'm done with it. But I'm more, understanding, more like, just a little more, compassion about people now.
I wish more officers were like that.
Yeah. I mean, now don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Now, I like at my facility, depending on what floor you're on, because we got 7 floors. The higher you go, the more severe the charges are.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't go to the maximum security floor and do that. No. However, from like maybe 5 and down, yeah, they're normal people. Like, I mean, even from 5 and up too. However, that's just a whole. Even the environment is different. Yeah. The whole environment is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mini prison from 5 up down there.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh wow. So when you actually worked at Rice Street, did you have anything to do with the filming the first time season 3 and 4 were done?
No. I didn't want it. I didn't want to be on camera. And believe it or not, I'm not a camera guy. I don't do the cameras. Believe it or not. I had nothing to do with it. I stayed out of. There was actually the floor that I was working at when it was there. I purposely just came in, came out. I didn't want to be on camera. I didn't just. No, I was just there to do my job and get up out of there.
That's cool. Yeah, like how you said, like now that you've actually been on both sides and you understand it, like you don't want nobody to burn the bridges and keep pushing their limits. Right. But now you got that little bit of understanding of, okay, now I see where you're coming from. I'll give you the few minutes, or I'll do this to help you out because I see like if you ain't trying to get down on me and get over on me, I can help you out and I'll be more understanding.
Absolutely, and that's what I wish. And I say inmates as a whole, but it's not inmates as a whole. Just like people can't say police as a whole. You gotta put names on people because you can't say this guy. You can't put us all in the same box, as well as we can't put inmates all in the same box. But at my facility, man, it's strictly respect, with the inmates to officers and vice versa. As long as there's no disrespect, you're doing what you're supposed to do. Don't have an issue, because your number one weapon as law enforcement is verbal judo, is talking. I shouldn't. Every incident doesn't call for me to put my hands on you, doesn't call for me to, pepper spray you, OC you, or, verbal judo. Some days I'll just wake up when I was in and I was just like, yo, today is just a bad day. I don't want to be bothered. I just want to sit in my bunk and just relax the rest of the day. And I think it was, I forgot her name, but a female CO came in and she was just talking to me and cheered me up. So now I try to do more stuff like that, talk to people, try to help them out. If they got some issues going on at home, I'm not trying to know all your personal business, but if I can help you within the guidelines, I'll definitely, try to do it. I'll try to do it.
Oh yeah.
And I like that because I know in the history of the show, there's been law enforcement officers that have gone in that have quit. And then there's been people that have gone in and gone on to have a great law enforcement career because my interactions. My interactions. Oh, that's all right.
Good.
My interactions with people first of all, I've always been respectful to people. Unless we have to go hands on, I'm not going to go hands on. And but then and Tony, you get some of these young corrections officers in there and they feel like the only way to get respect is by being a jerk. Right. That's the one thing that it turns out that they usually have the hardest time, if you will, is they don't respect people. And you can get a lot further with an inmate if you show them respect. In fact, one of the greatest compliments I ever got was from an inmate. And he said, you know what? He said, the good thing about you is you're always consistent. You don't let us get away with stupid crap, but on the same token, you don't come in and treat us like crap either. So that was definitely one of the I credit 60 Days In with helping me in my own law enforcement career. But real quick, is there anything that happened in there that completely changed your thoughts? I mean, anything great that happened in there that you want to share?
Yes. I did not realize that I am an emotional man. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how sensitive and emotional I am. Meaning, you know, when I was in there, it was an incident where I don't know if it was pertaining to a friend of mine. I was talking to a friend of mine he was on the outside, and he was going through something, and I couldn't be there for him, and that bothered me so bad. And if I was, if I was out and he's telling me the same situation, we could go meet up, go get a couple drinks or hang out, do whatever, and, get through it together. However, when I was in there, I wasn't able to do that, and that bothered me so bad. And a couple other situations, I was like, man, I'm more sensitive and emotional than I thought I was. So, and I embrace that. I embrace that. I like to live in my truth. If I'm a certain way, I like to own it. Whether it's good or bad, I like to own it. Yeah.
And that's the best way about being in there. Like you can't be fake because people are gonna see through that. Yeah. And there's so many people that actually try to be somebody else who they're not.
Right.
And like it's just like, I mean, I learned this, like just be who you are. Mm-hmm. People will accept you. Don't matter. You can be weird and corny, but people are gonna accept that. Don't try to be some hard ass that you're not,
Right.
Like
yeah.
Stand your ground, be a man, but don't just be who you are, and whatever that is, people gonna respect that. But if you try to come in and act like you're somebody else, or you're tougher than you are, or something, they're gonna try you. They're gonna they're gonna see right through you. But if you just go in, you be a man about yourself, and you just act however you are on the street, just in jail or prison, they're gonna respect that way more than you trying to be somebody else that you're not.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So at my facility, the saying that all the inmates always say, for what we house over in the summer we house over 3,000 inmates. Yeah. I think the least we ever have at one time, it may be 2,500. So we'll go from 3 men, 3 to a cell, boats in the yard, in the day road. So a lot of inmates, they say they rather go down the road than be in the county. So how do you feel about that?
Definitely. So I was in the county, and and I've said this before, how I end up doing my time was I would just ask everybody, I don't care who you were, just, hey, how did you do your time? Because there was a lot of guys who've already been in prison that are back. So I'm like, how did you do your time? How did you do your time? And I just took bits and pieces from all sorts of people. But the main thing they told me was, man, just get down the road, bro. It's going to be so much better. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Going to prison's better than the county? And they're like, bro, I'm telling you, bro, go to prison. You're going to be like, man, I wasted too much time in the county. And a lot of people who are on parole and they get violated and they come back, they can sign a waiver to go straight to prison and not sit in the county while they're waiting on their court date.
Okay.
And so that's what a lot of guys, if they catch another charge, that's what they'll do, is they'll sign that waiver and get out of there in a month, so they don't have to sit there and wait a year. But it's so much different down in prison than, it's horrible. It's a bad thing to be. It's a lot better way to do your time. You can, like I said, you can move around. You can go to more freedom. You can go to chow. You can get into schools and different classes. There's so much more. You can have face-to-face visitation instead of through a glass or video. Yeah. And so it's just like there's so many more opportunities, and it's just a lot more easier to do time in prison than it is in the county. And the county just drags because you're in the same room for months at a time, and maybe the same room and then a small yard. But in prison you actually get to go outside, get some sun. You get to go to a big yard, play softball, play football, volleyball, basketball on a big court. So there's a lot of ups and downs. Yeah, prison sucks, but if you go to county and you're depending on your case, you want to get to prison as quick as possible. But if you got a case and you need to fight it out in the county and just, wait it out. But yeah, it's a lot better down in prison than any county.
Right.
And I really wish that they would do more things in counties to make it an easier time. And I understand like having classes in county is hard because the turnover rate is so high. But if
Right.
they could have like and like off the top of my head, I don't know what it would be, but if they could come up with an easy class or classes where it's okay if it's a high turnover rate, they could have that. And then if you don't have a bond, they could have different classes for people who are going to be there for 6 months, a year, 2 years, depending on how long they're waiting, to help them out while they're waiting to go to court, to help their time go by. And I think that it would be an incentive, depending on how good these classes are, to bring the violence down. Because I know in prison, there's some really great classes to be in, and people will not act out as often as they would because they're in these classes. And I mean, you know, I took my CDL class in there. I took diesel mechanic. I took ABE, which is like pre-GED. I took a college course. I wasn't able to finish it because I went to the transitional center, but I did like, I think 2 semesters of a college course for business, and I did almost 4.5 years in the Auburn Canine bomb protection program teaching dogs.
Nice.
So there's a lot of ups about being in prison, and there's a lot of good like classes that you can get into. So I mean, there's even like heads of gangs that are making their foot soldiers go to class and telling them, we're not on the BS, you're going to class, you're gonna get in GED. So I mean, there's ups to it. It brings the violence down. And I've seen, you know, like 2 or 3 heads of a gang tell their whole entire gang across a whole prison, you're not getting in any fights, not unless it's like Superman, you know, like you have to, but over something stupid, you're not getting in a fight, and you're going to class, and you're going to find a class, and you're going to get in one, and you're going to learn something. And I think that really helps out prisons to, you know, the prisons that have more classes and more things to do, you know, the more activities there are, there's less time for the BS. If there's more sports and you're going out and you're doing a sport and coming back, you're coming back, taking a shower and going to bed. You're
tired,
too tired.
You burned off that energy. Yeah,
you burned out all that energy. So if there's more classes and more sports and activities, physical activities, there's less BS going on in the prison.
I agree 100%.
So I wish that they would have more programs.
So how did you if you don't mind me asking, what did you go to prison for?
Okay, I don't mind answering this. I haven't answered it on any video yet because I'm gonna make a video about it showing my all my paperwork. But
okay, that's fine.
No, it's okay. I did 10 years for armed robbery.
Okay.
I'm a prior convicted felon. I got a felony when I was 18, so I got a whole bunch of convicted felon with a firearm and convicted felon in the commission of a felony with a firearm and home invasion and armed robbery. So that's why, and 8 aggravated assaults. So that's why with the AR, as what was mandatory 10 years. And I mean, I wish I think they just changed it to where they dropped the mandatory minimum because there's so many people in prison in Georgia because of the mandatory minimum. And I mean, there's people that are doing small, petty, little tiny robberies and they're doing 10 years. And I mean, there's some young dudes, 18, 19 years old, doing 10, 15, 20 years because of an AR. And half of them, it was just something stupid. Like they robbed a pizza guy. You're like, what? Yeah.
Excuse me.
There's guys in there that robbed a pizza guy.
Well, hold on, and this is where our differences are going to show right here. And sorry, but you're saying they're getting 10 years for just robbing a pizza guy, but they still put a gun at the pizza guy's head, right? Or
no, AR, it doesn't. In the state of Georgia, you don't even have to have a gun. You can say you have a gun and get 10 years. So I could put my hand in my shirt with like this. And
like
say,
this?
Yeah, like that.
Like this?
Just like that.
Like that. Okay.
No, like that. And you're gonna get 10 years for that, for the person that you're robbing thinking that you have a gun. You can have a cell phone,
Right,
and
right,
it doesn't
right,
matter. If they
right.
think that you got a gun, it's armed robbery.
Right, and I agree with that. I agree with that. I mean, if you, if I if I walk up to you and I got my hands in my pocket and I say, "Hey, I have a gun. I want all your money, this and that," you're thinking I have a gun. So whether if
Mm-hmm.
I have one or not,
Mm-hmm.
that's irrelevant because I'm telling you
Yeah.
I am, and I'm complying with you based off your threat. So I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah.
I think it should be case by case. Like if you do have a gun, they can find the gun, they got proof and all that. It should be different. I still don't think it should be 10 years. It should be case by case by case, and all the evidence put out there of what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there. I don't think there should be a mandatory minimum, because there's too many people's lives being wasted that just did something stupid on one night and nobody got hurt, and they might not even had a gun, and they're doing 10 years or more.
But honestly,
What do you
in how many cases did people
in
not have a
Georgia?
gun?
Right.
I mean,
There,
I know what
oh
you're
no,
saying in the
no, there's
hypothetical, but
Yeah.
yeah.
let's be honest, dude. 99% of cases in Georgia that are
Yeah.
armed robbery, they have a gun.
And
Yeah.
if and in Georgia it's probably gang related of some sort.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of that, but there is I wouldn't even say 99%. There is quite a bit of people that have got armed robbery cases that never had guns.
Mm.
There, I mean, and the sad thing to say is most of them are 17 to 23 years old.
Right. Right. Well, let me ask
Well,
you this. Oh, go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
What do you think about party to a crime here in Georgia? What do you think about that? I would love to know your opinion on that.
Uh, Party to a crime. That's especially if it's like an armed robbery. I mean, it should be case by case, but like, I mean, I do have a co-defendant that was party to a crime and he didn't do anything. They were looking for two white guys and they arrested two black guys at the beginning, and then we got arrested 2 days later, and the other two really didn't have anything to do with it. One really didn't have nothing to do with it, and one sort of did. I'm not going to go too
Yeah.
much into detail, but
Gotcha.
um, and he kind of told his way through the system, and they dropped his AR down to robbery, and he
Mm-hmm.
got, I think, a 22-8, so he probably only did 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like the DA. She was trying to give everybody the same amount of time, and I don't think that's right. Like, it should be first, like I said, case by case, depending on what's going on, what happens in the case, and how it plays
Right.
out. But you could be a driver or not even know that you like.
Right.
Hey,
Involved.
yeah, you might not even know, and you're like, how do you not know? There's plenty of people like, hey, can you take me to Buddy's house to go pick up some weed or something, or let's go to this other guy's house. I'm gonna hang out with him, and then you get there and like, oh, hold on a second, I'll be right back, and then you run in and rob somebody, and they don't even know it, and
Mm-hmm.
then y'all get caught, and then that person that was driving didn't even know they were driving somebody to the crime. And there are,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't happen that often, but there are people that have been
Yeah,
locked up
absolutely that happened.
that,
Absolutely.
they don't even really know what was going on, or they were forced to. Maybe they had the gun pulled on them, but they're not gonna snitch on them, but they get caught up with them, and then they're party to a crime, and they didn't even want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I really think that it should be broke down more case by case, and I think party to a crime should be less than whoever committed the crime.
What do you think about the priors? Do you think priors should influence a current situation? Like, meaning, if you got arrested 20 times and then say you got yeah,
Recidivist.
yeah,
Read the Recidivism is what it's called.
Yeah,
yeah,
recidivism.
It's always the hardest word for me to think of, but
yeah,
uh, to me, it's like, dang, man, if you've been to prison for more than 2 years and you didn't learn your lesson, like, golly, bro. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm going to go back to what I've been saying. It is case by case, but to me, recidivism, if you're getting arrested time after time after time, they need to you need to sit down and learn your lesson, because there's a lot of people that have like a whole bunch of like minor charges, like small drug charges, and it's just over and over and over, and then finally they get hit with recidivism, or they get a bigger charge, but then all those little charges behind it, and now you're going away for 10 plus years, and you might have only gone away for 5 if you didn't have all that other. Right. So I think that, I hate that I went to prison, but I'm glad I learned a lesson. I didn't need 10 years to learn my lesson. But I learned my lesson, and, I never want to go back. I never want to do anything that's going to put me back in that situation, my family in that situation, because that's not a life to live. And if you can't get that through your head that that's not the life to live, then just like your parents gave you tough love, you're going to have to learn tough love from the state. Like, all right, well, you can't learn out of 2 years or 3 years. I'm going to have to send you down the road for 8, 10, 15 years. And then hopefully you'll learn so that you come back and you can be a productive citizen of society, or you're going to end up being there for life.
Right.
So, I mean, it's I've seen people that got hit with it, and they're, like I said, some of their cases wouldn't even been that long, but with getting hit with that, they're doing 10 plus years because of it. So I mean, it's kind of a hard question, like I never, I've got 2 felonies, but my first one when I was 18, I only did 1 month when I first got arrested, and then 3 months when I got my plea deal was 24 served 12 for my felony, and they were going to postpone it for 3 years intense probation and 3 months for my misdemeanor in the county jail. So I felt like I kind of slid, and I straightened up for a couple years, but then one night I messed up, and I did something stupid. But I think I needed to sit down, and actually I did 3 months in the county. I didn't learn nothing. But now that I sit down and I looking at the time I was looking at and the time I did, I was like, okay, I learned my lesson. Right. I mean, I learned my lesson in the county when they came at me, when they were like, we got a plea deal for you. All right, what's that? We're going to give you life without. Do what? You going to do what? I can't do that.
They came to you with a life without parole plea deal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you even take it? At that point, might as well fight it.
And a week later they came back. Like a week later they came back and they were like, all right, we're gonna give y'all 30 to 15. And I was like, that's life with parole. That's not a deal. That's what I'm saying. I'm not taking that. And finally, like maybe like 2 weeks to a month later, they finally came back with, all right, we'll give you 20 to 10. But if you take it to trial, you got all this up against you, and you're gonna lose, and then when you lose, they're gonna give you life, and you're not gonna be able to ever come home. I'll take that 22-10.
Yeah.
So that was a tough pill to swallow, man. Like,
so do you feel your crime, or allegedly what you was charged for, was equal up to the 10 years? Do you feel like that was a fair punishment?
No.
Or you feel like you got away, it was too harsh? What do you think?
Like, I think the mandatory minimum is ridiculous, because it should be case by case. I really don't think that I should have got 10 years. I would have felt more comfortable with like 5 years and being able to take, I deserve that. I deserve 3 years, 5 years. But I don't feel that we deserve 10 years for what happened. And I don't feel that a lot of people deserve the 10 plus years under the mandatory minimum that they're passing out, because there's a lot of good people that just messed up. Like, some of them aren't career criminals, and they just mess up, and now they're looking at 10 plus or life, and I don't think that mandatory minimum is a good thing, because it should be case by case and how it plays out.
But when you say mess up, and we're just debating here, so don't think I'm calling you out. When you say mess up, we're not saying you smoked a little bit of crystal meth or you smoked a little weed. You made the conscious decision, and I'm not bashing you, but you made the conscious decision to rob somebody. And I'm not talking about you specifically, but
Just
I
in
see
general.
you're defending.
Yeah.
You're defending. It seems like a lot of robbery, and that's the funny thing about this. It was supposed to be the Tony interview, but now we're having counseling. This is a YouTube first. We have resorted to counseling, but it seems like you're having a lot of you don't understand or you don't agree. But at the end of the day, when you say mess up, and I don't know if I can comprehend that or not by saying, well, yeah, you messed up by picking up a gun, aiming it at somebody, and saying, give me your money. To me, a mess up is, hey man, try some weed. Okay, cool. 12 just rolled up on us. That's a mess up.
Right.
But so go ahead and talk to us about that, Justin. How do you see that as a mess up? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but how do you see that as just a genuine, honest mess up?
I mean, to me, it's like, okay, I at the time I was working 2 jobs, and I wasn't making hardly any money, even though I had 2 jobs, and I felt like the world just, I had a whole bunch on my plate that happened within a few weeks all at one time, and you know, I, when I was before I was 18, yeah, I was actually doing stuff consistently wrong, and like a career criminal, I was doing stuff consistently wrong. And this time it was like one night, one time happened. I feel it was like, dang, I didn't think it out right. I didn't like look at all my options of what I could have done, and I messed up by choosing the worst possible thing and doing it.
Right.
Like,
So I can definitely understand, not necessarily relate, but I can definitely understand your point of view and respect your opinion on that. Kind of like when I was when I was doing the show, people didn't understand, when I was in intake and I took the guy's money, or
yeah,
when I was telling the guy to go get the comic book, or when I was watching them fight, people that they didn't understand that. So when you say certain stuff, I can understand and respect your decision and why you feel that way. However, I got to side with Mark. However, I got to side with Mark. I agree with Mark as far as as far as being a mistake. Meaning, I'm real big on accountability. If
hmm
I wrong you, I'll come to you, pour my heart out, apologize. If I did something right, I take the good with the bad. If I do
hmm
something good, I want my family to praise me for it. If I do something bad, I want them to get on me about it. So I'm pretty big on accountability. And as far as, in my opinion, robbery, I feel like that's a conscious decision. I mean, I don't. And like I said, I'm not coming at you, just in general.
No, yeah.
That's like I feel like that's a thought process. Even though meaning this. Um, that's getting a firearm or a knife, some type of weapon.
hmm
And I understand opportunists, and I understand all that. But it just seemed like I don't know if I can say that's like a oops, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then even if someone didn't get hurt, and that's great that they didn't, but they still got to deal with the trauma. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? From that. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I say, like, even if that someone had their hands in their pocket or their pants, say, hey, I got a gun. Even with, like, when people rob banks with letters, that's
hmm
still trauma, because I don't know if you have a gun. I'm
Yeah.
still in fear of my life, because I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you have a gun. Just because you didn't show it don't mean you don't have it. So
Oh yeah.
that trauma is still there, whether pointing a gun in my face or just telling me you got it.
Yeah.
So I yeah. So I would say that's yeah that's
And I think, like I've said this before, is like I learned this when I was in the county, is think about what you're thinking about. And if anybody watches 1090 Jake, he says a creed that he learned when he went to prison is like, and I'm not gonna remember it word for word, but it's like,
mm,
your thoughts, watch your thoughts, because your thoughts become your your action or your words, and your words become your actions, you know.
Yeah.
And so like I can understand like maybe that there was a short period of time that consciously I was thinking about it before I ever did it. And then the day that it happened, it just happened. And I was like, you know, it was like boom, 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 boom. Like first all these things collapsed on me. And I guess, you know, a couple of weeks that prior to it, small thoughts had been going in my head that I didn't stop. I didn't stop and think about actually what I was thinking about. And, you know, they put this a lot into, and you know, now I'm older, I realize that there's a lot of subliminal messages in movies. There's a lot of subliminal messages in music. And so the more you put that into you, and if you're not thinking about it, then you start, like, if you're not thinking about what you're thinking about, it's going to turn into
your
things
reality.
you talk about, and it's going to turn into your reality.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something else that could have played out with me is, you know, I don't think that I was consciously stopping and thinking about what was going into my head and what I was thinking about. Like when times started getting tough, I started thinking about the old ways, how I used to get money quick. And then I made a conscious but unconscious decision to go do something that I regret for life. But now that I'm out and I'm looking back, it's like, you know, I'm glad it happened to me. But my thing in life that I want to do now, and especially with this channel, is to help somebody else, man. Like if Mark and I or anybody that we interview can ever say one thing that helps anybody else out, and that helps one person from going to prison,
is worth
it. And you know, I missed 10 years of my life. I missed 10 years of my wife because she stayed with me the whole time. My family, my nieces and nephews, and you know, my grandfather passed away while I was in there. You know, there's so many things that you don't realize that you can and do miss while you're gone. So really, if you are out there and you're doing something crazy or you're in that lifestyle, you know, or you know somebody who is, and I've said this before, just stop, man, and like before it gets too late, because before you know it, you can be free today and have a life sentence tomorrow, and it'd be like that.
Yep.
Well, this is a good place.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was gonna say
go ahead.
I commend you, man. Like just hearing your story, like that's man, awkward fist bump.
Yeah.
That's like, man, I get excited about hearing stories like that. You know, not only most of the time when you hear people say that when they come from prison or jail, they're, oh, I did this, and you know, it's refreshing and rewarding to hear that. You know, you may not look at it this way, but I feel like the system, so to speak, it did you some good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, you got this credential, that credential, this credential, and then your whole thinking process and your your way of thinking, your new way of thinking, and how you view things is different. It's more mature. You're making better decisions. You know, your whole thought process is different, and I commend you for that, man. A lot of people don't get that. So, man, awkward fist bump.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is
that,
a good stopping point because our 30-minute episode has now turned into an hour, which is great.
Yeah.
However, before we end it up, Tony, tell us about yourself. Tell us your social media accounts. If any of our followers want to give you a follow, tell us what you're doing now.
Okay. So a little background that I didn't put out there. I actually own a small construction business. Do full renovations. I buy houses, flip them, rent them out. I do full renovations. My IG is Tony8842, and my Facebook is Tony Murray. And now I just, you know, still in law enforcement. Just living, man. Just enjoying life. Just enjoying life.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on here, man.
No problem.
Yeah, we do. And this was actually a great interview that turned into another interview within the interview.
Will you come back again, man? Because I'd love to have you back again, man.
Man, absolutely, man. Mark, man, you got to set it up, Mark. I'm there.
Oh, so yeah, we can definitely do that, and I think this has been really good. And you know, actually, I think Ashley is maybe eventually going to drop in and do a couple episodes with us from here to there. We'll find out. But my good news, real quick, before we let go, is we've seen that we've been picking up steam, and we're almost to 1,000 subscribers. So we're going to do a giveaway. All right. So most of y'all know me as the Bible study guy from season 5 on 60 Days In. I had count them, 2 Bibles that I used. Since I'm the Bible study guy, we'll go ahead and use it. So if you share this video, like, subscribe, say, hey, I want it, we're going to come up with something. Actually, we'll probably do a separate video, but I'm going to go ahead and announce it now. Once we hit 1,000 subs, one of those Bibles is yours. It's going to be some random drawing, some random giveaway. We'll actually probably make a separate video just for the giveaway, so you don't have to wait an hour to get to the. But I told you, actually, I did say in the beginning, you got to wait until you get to the good episode.
Right.
But listen, we're going to give it away, and so be on the lookout in the next few days for details on that. The next good news will be hopefully next week. So make sure you hit that awkwardly fist bump, that subscribe button, like, share, interact with us. Look at all our social medias, and all that will be in the bio description, as well as Tony's. Love you guys. We'll talk to you later. Boom.
Boom.
Bro.